Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I know the channel's been on somewhat radio silence lately, but I think you'll agree that this is worth the wait. We are beginning a new Dominions 5 game. It'll be starting fairly shortly. Videos of the game itself won't be coming out for a little while, of course, because I'll have to wait for, a year or so after the game begins. But coming up next on the radar is Dominions Allstars 2, the second draft game. Of course, the first draft game is, as of this video, not quite completed yet. But we are working on it. We're getting towards the end game. I think the end game is about to start. And so I thought it was time to fire up the second one. And so, in this second game, the rules were slightly different. We were allowed to draft certain summons at a price assigned by the auto-generator. We were allowed to draft certain units that didn't really appear in the native game necessarily. And basically, I took advantage of those rules to draft Trollheim. You can see we have a bunch of nations here. They're not entirely completed yet. The mod is still under construction. We do have the Age of Memes, Optimistria of Freeloading Gamblers, the Baywatch memes of the 80s, Communigrad, the City of Bloodless Communions, Pangender the Confused, I'm not sure what he was going for here, Thriceborn, the White Social Club, which is actually pretty freaking sweet, DJ Akhaled, the Panic Night servers, the Bakemono Bouncers, all very nice. This is Summer's Nation, and he did a pretty good job talking about adding lore to it. Miltonus, the Babylonian Outcasts, Eternium, the Sons of Adam, and of course, Trollheim, the Mountain Kings. So, I took to this nation with the determined goal to draft a nation of basically trolls. Now, you may notice I have some non-troll units in the nation as well. There were certain trolls that I felt were overlapped too much or unnecessary, or I just couldn't figure out a way to really make them work. I drafted in a few cheaper units and mages to kind of give me a little bit of backup, but the main strength of this nation rather, is definitely the trolls. Specifically, as you may notice, I have 3 troll mages, none of whom can be recruited natively. 2 of them can be summoned, but this one can't even be summoned. This one, I believe, is only spawned by a specific random event. So let's take a look at the nation, shall we? This isn't going to be really a nation analysis, not that in-depth, but we're going to take a look at Trollheim and then some of the competition as well. Of course, like I said, not everything is finalized yet, so more lore still needs to be added, etc., etc. But in this nation, I have renamed some of my units as well. I've got the Trolled Folk, who are Bakemono show. So the Trolled Folk Spears and the Trolled Folk Archers. These guys can be recruited, have mountain recruitment bonus, so they're slightly cheaper in mountain provinces. And they're just efficient. They're very gold efficient, resource efficient combat units, especially because since they're size 1, these spear guys who do 15 piercing damage, which is not too shabby, can pack in 6 to a square and do quite a bit of damage that way. They also have a little bit of armor. No head armor, unfortunately, but a little bit of body armor. Trolled Folk Archers are probably second in terms of efficiency to only to Pygmy Archers, and they're pretty solid as well. I also have the Trolled Folk Huskarls, which are Dai Bakemono. These guys are very good troops. I've used them before. They're one of the main draws of Shinuyama's troop lineup. On top of that, of course, I have 2 kinds of trolls. I have Forest Trolls, and I have regular trolls. Forest Trolls are cheaper, 45 gold, which is still very expensive, but potentially usable. They have some natural protection, as well as a little bit of armor. Very high strength, so they hit for a total of 30 with their great clubs, and they regenerate. However, they are also 5 points susceptible to fire, which means they'll take double damage from fire up to a maximum of 5 extra, and if they're lit on fire, they are very unlikely to put themselves out. That said, they can regenerate through the fire damage, so if you hit the end of the battle with them and they're on fire, they'll probably be alright. They also have 50% dark vision. Then we have the normal trolls. Normal trolls cost 15 more gold, do 4 more damage, have more hit points, 9 more HP, and are extra susceptible to fire. So these guys are actually in many ways worse than forest trolls. They do, however, have more protection, so they're tougher, but fire hurts them even more, and they cost 25% extra. We have Troll Guard. These are a capital-only unit, since I had to have a capital-only unit. They cost 60 as well. They have fairly decent protection, even a higher strength, very low attack skill, but they can go underwater. And they're so tough, especially underwater. They're regenerating at 20%, which means they're regenerating 12 or 13 HP per round. So these guys can fight underwater hugely efficiently. Somewhere between 5 and 10 Troll Guard are able to pretty much clear almost any underwater province just by themselves. just by virtue of being incredibly tough to beat. Incredibly tough to actually kill. And then I have the Troll Moose Knights. Troll Moose Knights are actually very powerful. Total prot of 21. Their head protection is still pretty low, but it does exist. 40 hit points plus the regeneration, 3 attacks. The flail attack hits like a fucking truck, and it gets to swing twice because it's a flail, plus it gets a bonus versus shields. So that's nice. So high prot, hard to kill. Their head is actually high enough that humans with length 1 weapons like swords and axes can't hit them there. With spears they can't hit them there, but with swords and axes they cannot. And they're just tanky enough and do enough damage that a few Troll Moose Knights can plow through a lot of opposition without too much trouble. Expanding with Troll Moose Knights is quite rapid. So that's my troop lineup. It varies between, so I've got very cheap, efficient, but low total utility units down here. A fairly expensive and efficient and useful unit in the Trollfolk Huskarl. And then I have the Trolls, which are expensive elites, kind of for special purpose use. The Troll Moose Knight is just generally good, albeit probably too pricey for how good it is. Trolls and Forest Trolls are definitely specialist units. They are tough, but they have some glaring weaknesses. And then the Troll Guard, of course, exist only for underwater expansion. Looking at my commander lineup then, I have Olmish Warrior Scouts. So these guys can be recruited in all forests, which means that I have, guaranteed out-of-capital scouting capability, which is very, very useful. Veti Hags exist mainly to be very, very cheap research and utility mages. So 40 gold, 5 research points, more of course if I take magic scales. For their magic paths, they have Astral, Death, Nature, or Blood randoms. This is the only blood I have in the nation, pretty much. In fact, I think that is the only blood I have in the nation. But all these 3 randoms, so these guys can be very cheap blood hunters to break me into a little bit of blood later on for forging. I don't plan to use blood in any major way in Trollheim, but having a little bit for forging is nice. And all these guys are just general kind of very low-level utility units. Swarm, Body Ethereal, or Luck boosts. The Death ones can summon single skeletons or cast basic death spells. They can do some work. They can be useful, all of them, to some degree, and they're incredibly cheap. So if I need to save money for my expensive troops, I can be recruiting Veti Hags. Trollfolk Shamans are stealthy, which is nice. They have leadership 40, which is nice. They cost 80 gold, but they're sacred, so their upkeep is actually the same as Veti Hags. And for randoms, they have fire, water, earth, or death. Earth and death I already have plenty of, but fire and water I don't have much of in the rest of the nation. In fact, this is the only place I get fire 1. So, the fire random Trollfolk Shamans get me access to fire 1, which lets me site search for fire gems, and do basic forging of fire items, which will be very important for me later on in the game. The water ones also help me site search for water, and can do a little bit of basic forging for me as well. Then we get into the real mages, the big boys, the guys that are going to do most of the heavy lifting. Troll Shamans are going to be kind of my general use, general recruit mage in a lot of ways. They do regenerate, they're quite tough, they have the fire weakness, but it's only 5 points. They start off with Death and Nature 1, and they random Earth, Death, or Nature. Earth random Troll Shamans are quite decent thug chassis because they're cheap. They only cost 150 gold and 1 recruitment turn. And with Death and Nature and Earth, they can cast a wide variety of very useful buff spells on themselves. Death 2 are, of course, Death 2 mages, and a Death 2 mage that's big and regenerates for 150 gold is not a bad deal. And Nature 2 is a higher level Nature mage that can obviously site search for N2 and can forge nature items, can use a Thistle Mace, and such. In fact, the Earth random, actually, if we gave one a Thistle Mace, and with the Earth random, he could then cast Strength of Gaia to boost himself up to Nature 3. So we have a lot of nature magic access out of these Troll Shamans, as well as a lot of combat power. With the regeneration, they're regenerating 3 hit points a round. With nature, they can cast personal regeneration on themselves to boost that up to 20%, which means they'll be regenerating 6 hit points a round, or 5, I think. I forget exactly how it rounds, but I think it's 6. And do a lot of fighting. With a little bit of light gear, they could be very, very efficient raiding thugs. Following that, we have the Troll Kings. Now, Troll Kings are slow to recruit, and this is true in native. Troll Kings are marked as slow to recruit, even though nobody can actually recruit them. They cost 200 gold, and for that you get a fantastic purpose-built thug. They are very susceptible to fire, which is why it's important to have Fire 1 from those Trollfolk Shamans to forge them fire resistance gear, if nothing else. But They're Earth 3, they regenerate 15%. They come with very heavy armor. Very good armor as well. The Golden Scale Mail does not add a whole lot of encumbrance. And of course their natural protection. So their base protection is already well up in thuggable range. Their regeneration means they regenerate 7 hit points a round. I've tested this, it's 7. I don't know why it's not 6, but it isn't. It rounds up, so it's that 2 there from the 42 gives me an extra full point of regen per round. And they're Earth 3, so they can cast every Earth buff on themselves, and they can also cast high-level Earth combat spells. With a pair of Earth boots, these guys can cast Earth power and be Earth 5. And I can just recruit them for 200 gold. So I've got Earth 5 mages in combat coming out my fucking ears with this nation. Troll Kings are huge. They're very, very valuable. They have mountain survival and dark vision as well, so they can fight effectively in caves and move effectively through mountains. And of course, like all trolls, they don't eat, so they don't use it. They don't have to use up supplies. Full slots, excellent, prot, hit points, strength. Defense skill obviously leaves something to be desired. Attack skill is fairly unimpressive, but that can be fixed with gear. And their combat speed actually isn't bad either. Neither is their map move. So these guys, very good, somewhat higher end thugs, but I can recruit them anywhere. They're not capital only. Then we get to the crown of the nation, the real pride and joy, the Troll Seth Barender. Troll Seth Barenders are not slow to recruit. They cost 270 gold, and they're incredibly powerful. These are basically Troll Norna, the slow to recruit capital only mage of Utgard. Astral 2, Death 2, Nature 1, and a random from Earth, Astral, Death, and Nature. These guys can form communions, including turbo communions, because they do regenerate. If you have them regenerating and you slap on a Ring of Regeneration and you cast Personal Regeneration in the communion, all of a sudden, hey presto, they're regenerating 9 hit points a round. At which point you can have, 7 or 8 communion masters building off of 2 of these guys casting, say, high-level Skelospam forever, or what have you. You can build very, very effective, albeit expensive, turbo communions with these guys, just like any of the Jotun line of nations can do with Skrattir. These guys are very powerful mages. On top of that, of course, you can end up with Astral 3 or Death 3, which can ratchet upwards very, very easily. You can also end up with Nature 2. That's less important, but of course you can weave it into communions and boost up to Nature 4, Nature 5, whatever it is that you need to cast your high-level nature spells. And once again, if you're random Earth, you can use a communion boost, cast Strength of Gaia, and boost yourself up a couple paths that way. So lots of options to get high-level nature, plenty of options to get high-level Death and high-level Astral. Troll Seth Barender can potentially cast the really powerful late-game Astral spells, like Master and Slave, Will of the Fates, Doom, all that kind of stuff, because they can boost themselves up to that level of Astral magic without much help. And, since they're just so tough and they regenerate so much, you don't need to guard them a lot. They don't need a ton of troops defending them, because in most circumstances, they'll be able to survive a little bit of enemy attention. Now, of course, the Communion Slaves won't be able to defend themselves, but if you can just drop some defensive buffs on them, like Personal Luck, Body Ethereal, etc., they'll be able to just ignore a lot of damage. And, you get an Earth random guy in the Communion, and you drop Iron Skin to boost their natural protection up to 20. You drop some kind of buff to take away the fire susceptibility. Army of Gold at high levels. Get a Troll King to drop Army of Gold on the whole army, and they'll be good. On top of that, of course, while they are expensive and non-sacred, they do have a very high research ability. So if I have extra gold and want to boost my research very quickly, starting to churn out Troll Sith Barender and using them to research will be the way to do that. Finally, I do have a capital-only mage, which is the Olm Sage. I took the Olm Sage because I need water. Since my trolls, my most powerful and most useful mages, and some of my most powerful troops, are all susceptible to fire to a really significant degree, it's important to have countermeasures to fire magic available. And one of the easiest countermeasures, and one of the reasons why fire magic is considered relatively weak overall, is rain. The rain spell, you just have to have a water 2 mage and some water gems, and you can cast rain at evocation 3. And it doubles the fatigue cost of fire magic, straight up. On top of that, it also reduces heat auras, and it puts out fires when people get set on fire. So it's just a tailor-made counter to fire magic, and solely having access to that is worth buying Olm Sages. Now, they also serve another purpose. They have a leadership 40, which only otherwise my Troll Kings and my Trollfolk Shamans have. And they're amphibious, so they can lead Troll Guard underwater. They're also fortune tellers, which is nice, and they have Earth 1, so they can do some Earth-Water crosspath stuff, especially in caves. They can cast the unique cave summons like cave crabs and cave cows and stuff like that. And cave grubs as well for siege if I need that. So that's nice, but mainly I got them because they are Water 2 mages. They'll be able to search for water, they'll be able to forge water boosters, and they'll be able to cast water spells, including the some of the water anti-fire damage spells and rain in combat. So these guys are also critical to my strategy. So that's the nation. My starting site is the starting site of Jotunheim, renamed. So I start off with nature, death, and astral income. I'll have to find earth and water income fairly quickly, also hopefully a little bit of fire income, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I can recruit a Troll King fairly early on to get Earth 3 site searching and just use him to go site searching around. That should get me some Earth income pretty rapidly. Same with an Olm Sage. I'll recruit an Olm Sage and be site searching with them to get some water income pretty rapidly, because by the time I have my first war, which will probably be pretty early, I want to have rain online. Just in case. Now, fortunately, as I said, rain comes online maybe really quickly. So grabbing Evocation 3 as my first research target and then just bum rushing somebody with powerful troll troops might not be a bad call, depending on, of course, who it is. But in general, honestly, I just did this nation as a meme. It's, once again, just like the United Independent Coalition, it is not in the upper ranks of the kind of nation that you can get out of a draft like this, but it's fun, and it's thematic, and I appreciate that, honestly, more than I appreciate the maximum possible raw power. On top of that, there actually is a lot of power here. Troll Shamans, very much worth the price. These are good, sturdy, midline mages with thugging potential and decent paths. The Earth randoms are bad at, like, combat magic stuff, but they're good at thugging. The Death or Nature randoms are pretty decent at combat magic stuff, and still not bad at thugging, but I probably wouldn't use them for that. Troll Kings are splendid at thugging, amazing at thugging for the price, and also high-level Earth combat mages. And then, of course, Troll Seth Berander are just some of the best mages in the game. I mean, I would say, flat out, these guys are incredibly good. For 270 gold, not slow to recruit, not capital only, I'll buy that for $1. I'll take 10. They're good. They are good shit. If I wanted to be maximally thematic, what I would try to do is I would probably make Troll Kings capital only, Olm Sages. Olm Sages can also be recruited in caves, by the way. Olm Sages cave only, and then Troll Sith Berander forest only, and you have to build like a fort and a lab. But I'm gonna take a shot at this. I think this is going to be an interesting one. So to look at a couple of our competitors, as you can see here, most people have not really gotten their lore in yet. This guy, Communigrad, I forget who was playing this, but he's got Phlegron Priests, Imperial Geomancers, so very cheap, highly efficient Communion Mages, Galas, Nature Sacred Mages, Chthonian Reanimators, so cheap, efficient Death 2, Oppressor Generals, who are Communion Masters, automatically, Mothers of Avalon, who can form choruses, and are Holy Nature Mages with randoms from Nature and Air, and possibly Water or Earth, so good mages overall. Druids, who are basically, these guys are basically Imperial Geomancers, but they pay 115 more gold for a random. They are sacred, and they are priests, so that's nice, but still, comparatively, very, very inefficient. And Chthonian Necromancers is capital only, 300 gold for Fire, Earth, Death, and then randoms including Astral. These guys are solid mages. They are old, unfortunately, and slow, but still, those paths, that's a good combination of paths. Very, very useful stuff. He can recruit Chud Chieftains in a forest, who are stealthy berserkers with 80 leadership, very, very solid. He's got Mounted Herdman. He's got Vanheers for his sacred, so very dangerous. Incredibly dangerous, actually. Vanheers are yikes. He's got Dai Bakemono, the lower resource ones with only the sword, as opposed to the sword and the bow. Storm Guard, so flyers, storm flying, etc. Decent prot, and an Ice Lance. And he's got Healot Ekdromos. I don't know why he picked these guys. I wouldn't say they're fantastic, but he picked them, so they are slaves. He does have Oppressor Generals who are Taskmasters, and who can, of course, lead his communion. So he's got a lot of varied communion stuff here. I'm not sure how well it's going to work out exactly. For gem income, he's got a bunch. Fire, air, earth, and nature all spread out. It's not a bad nation. It seems a little bit scattered to me. I think what he's done is you're allowed to pick national spells and items in this game, of course. To be honest, they weren't terribly important to me, but I picked some. I believe he's picked Teaching Sign, which is the Germany's national spell castable by priests who are also nature mages, which buffs all of your paths. So the nice thing about that is his Mothers of Avalon can use that to buff their paths, even in a communion. So, you know, if you get a Mother of Avalon who is randomed like Air 1 or Air 2 in a communion with 4 slaves, buffs her up to like Air 3, then she casts Teaching Sign to buff herself up to Air 4. That doesn't cost any fatigue except for basic spellcasting fatigue, which in her case is 3. And it doesn't cost any gems. So you get Power of the Spheres, essentially, but for no gem cost and for no fatigue. It's a really, really good deal. That's Communigrad. The Baywatch here has the most notable thing they have. They have basic, like, human assassins who have crossbows. These are the Marionese assassins. They've got Oni Shugo, who are pretty good recruitable thugs. They come with some wolves to distract the enemy. They have Death 2 plus a random. The Earth randoms are especially good. And they have the ghost form when they die and try to retreat, so that helps them out. Although they do drop their gear when they turn into a ghost. He's got Sorrowmancers, the late-age Statistician Sorrowmancers with fire and high-level death magic. So he's got excellent access to Death 4. And he has Pans. These are the early-age Pangea Pans. So Earth, Nature, and randoms, including potentially a little bit of blood. So he's got a lot of nature, high-level nature, albeit slow and expensive to activate. He also took Royal Malkeys. So he's got those. Royal Malkeys are definitely a high cost gamble, but they're very, very powerful. So especially if you can get these guys into a communion, they can do some work. Now, since they are innate spellcasters, in a communion they will burn their slaves out like that, but it might be worth it. Might be worth it to have the Royal Malkeys cast some really, really powerful spells. They can, of course, also cast Power of the Spheres on themselves and then elemental booster spells, so they can ratchet themselves up quite high without any real trouble. He has Sirens, who are only recruitable on the coast, I believe, or underwater. They're not very special. And then he has Cabaros, who are also coast recruit, who are smiths with a resource bonus and a forge bonus. Earth plus a random. They're basically small Cyclope smiths, is what Cabaros are. Except they don't have the Master Smith, they have the forge bonus instead. So they can make items more cheaply, but they can't make powerful or high-level items. Still, very, very useful. 4 units, he has Shibalban Scorpions. The size 3 ones, the big ones. So, fairly dangerous, actually, albeit kind of expensive. He has Trud Hirdman, which are a very good troop. They are, once again, expensive, but I would say they're worth the cost, generally speaking. Berserker plus 2, 2 attacks that hit very hard. These guys are essentially cut-price Vanheers. They lose Sacred Status and Glamour in exchange for like a 20 gold price discount. He has Knights of Avalon, his capital-only unit. Very high-quality, elite heavy cavalry, incredibly high defense skill, they do recuperate, and they have a magical attack, which pushes their melee attack number up to 3, which is quite solid, counting the lance, that is. And then he has Androlets. This was kind of a wild card pick. I didn't expect anyone to take Androlets because they're not all that impressive, in my opinion. But they do have the Mind Blast, so they can paralyze people from a long distance away. That's nice. It's a nice capability to have. That said, I would say that 50 gold on a coast-only recruitable troop without any impressive other stats is a little pricey. I wouldn't expect them to do super well, but, you know, we'll see. He's got 2 sites. He has the Gold Apple Tree and Los Angeles. Los Angeles gives him the Royal Malkeys and the Knights of Avalon, Air, Water, Earth, and Astral. Not a bad nation. Not a bad nation. Once again, I would say a little bit scattered. He does have the Muchkuhul, but they're super expensive for what you get. And he has the Hurim Priests. I can't believe I overlooked these guys. These guys are actually not expensive for what you get. They have a lot of undead leadership. If you have a lot of undead, they mummify themselves, so they will come back as a Malki when they die, which does have upkeep cost. In fact, very high upkeep cost, but still. And, of course, they're Death 2 flyers, who also have the potential to be Earth 2 or have Air or Astral. So, not bad. Not too shabby at all. He also has Magisters, who are mages. In fact, they can actually be reasonably powerful mages, which is incredible for the price, but the odds are very low. They are masons, so they can build bigger forts. They're unaffected by drain scales, and they are spies. And 7 research points, unaffected by drain scales, for 95 gold, who is also a spy and a mason. Not bad. Not bad at all. I think they're, Magisters are a pretty good pickup. I think that's everything for the Baywatch. Optimistria here has Inquisitors, Flagrant Oppressors. Inquisitors are a very low-level mage, but they can give you blood, so you can use them as blood hunters, I suppose. Flagrant Oppressors, who are Auto-Communion Masters and also Task Masters. Decent magic, but only really useful in a communion. Master Smiths, for forging, primarily. The Magisters Arcane. Magisters Arcane are quite powerful mages. They can all communion up. They only cost 170 gold for 4 paths, plus a 50% random, which is not bad. And they have Air 2, so you can communion up even just a few of them, and you've got a Thunderstrike communion. Very solid. Also, unaffected by drain scales. He has the Lion Queens, his capital only, slow to recruit. Fire, Earth, and Nature. This is a terrible cross path, Fire and Nature, because your troops will tend very strongly to light people on fire by casting big fire spells and then throwing wooden warriors around like candy. So you will end up burning down your own army when you have these ladies in it. It's unfortunate, but kind of true. He also has Dai Oni. Dai Oni are his other capital-only recruitment mage. You were allowed to choose, by the way, whether your capital-only recruits were going to end up being troops or mages or whatever. There was a little bit more leeway allowed in the draft this time. We had a couple of options. So he ended up with 3 capital onlys: Sun Guard, Lion Queens, and Dai Oni. Dai Oni, of course, are pretty decent super combatant chassis. They're undead, they have excellent paths. The only real downside is they can't use Phoenix Pyre because the first time they die, they turn into a ghost. And the ghost doesn't benefit from the Phoenix Pyre. He has Star Children, which are very high-quality assassins. They're astral, they have a Mind Blast, they have a decent Patience score. They can just go into an assassination, Mind Blast your mage, and then continually Mind Blast him until he dies, or use a Pokemon item of some kind to kill him with Vine Men or Water Elementals or what have you. And Melias, who are good commanders, inspirational, okay-ish thug chassis, although not great at it because their hit points are low. And they reduce unrest. Plus they recuperate. They're good. Melias are strong. Melias are very solid, actually. And for 160 gold, not too shabby. In terms of troops, he's got Rotarius, which are excellent little expanders and or panic troops. Furbolg Warriors, pretty decent. Pretty decent troops overall. Sappers, I would say that Sappers are too expensive for what you get, but they do have a significant siege bonus. So if you need siege chaff, these guys can give you 6 siege strength for 20 gold, which is about the best deal you're going to get. He has Sun Guard, which are flying sacreds, but otherwise unexceptional. He has Blind Fighters, which are recruit anywhere sacreds. Very tough, but very high encumbrance. I don't like Blind Fighters. I don't think they work well. There's one way, pretty much, to make Blind Fighters work, and it is to stack auras on them, so that even after they fall asleep, the fire and the heat and cold auras that they're putting off will also put the opponent to sleep and then slowly kill them. I don't know of any other way to really mitigate that 10 encumbrance enough to make them worthwhile. But you can have them. That's fine. And he has Theurg Communicants, so he can set up his communions very, very easily. And in particular, those Theurg Communicants will work very well with his Flagrant Oppressors. Auto-Communion Master, Auto-Communion Slave, boom, the communion's in place round 1. The Flagrant Oppressors can just light things off right off the top of their heads. So, Optimistria has powerful communions, lots of earth and fire, some death, as well as the Magister's Arcane with high-level air in their communions, so that's quite potent. On top of that, of course, the Theurg Communicants are not capital only, so he can recruit those bad boys anywhere, and he probably will be recruiting those bad boys everywhere if he can possibly afford it. So that is something to look out for. We looked at Communigrad. Thriceborn. Thriceborn is pretty cool. They've got Aja, who are flying leaders. Good leaders, too. These are Thaumaturgs, so Astral Death Mages for only 110 gold, very solid. Also Priests, and Reanimator Priests, no less. It's 120 gold for flying excellent Blood Hunters with Death Magic and randoms. The Achas, Nature 2 plus True Healer 2. Very solid. I don't know how this guy has map move 18 with that giant turntable, but, I mean, he must just be jacked as fuck. Just absolutely ripped. Dryads, who you can see he's carefully edited a little bikini bra onto. Holy Nature, Seducers, Dryads are just good. I mean, we know that from before. He has Pans. These are the middle-age Pans, who have a lower random than the early-age ones, but still, Earth 2, Nature 3, I almost said Death 3. Earth 2, Death 3 would be a very different mage. Earth 2, Nature 3, very, very solid. Can easily ratchet up to Nature 4, hold a stick for Nature 5, cast any nature spell in the world. Earth 3, Earth 4 with boots, so any Earth spell in the world, pretty much. Excellent stuff. Bakemono Sorcerers. Slow to recruit, but incredibly powerful. We've talked about these guys before, I believe. Excellent cross paths, a little bit of water in case you want a little bit of utility or acid spells. Fire, Earth, Death, great thug chassis, great heavy thug chassis. Hit points a little bit low for it, but still very, very solid. These are Master Alchemists from Tianqi. Sorry, these are, I think, Imperial Alchemists from middle-aged Tianqi. Slow to recruit, capital only, great paths, and then a random from one of the elemental paths. So very, very wide sight searching, always something they can do. They can't do the high-level stuff, generally speaking, because, well, they have one everywhere. But they can do high-level nature stuff, and they can ramp up to do decent levels of elemental stuff with the right boosters. And then he has Onaki, the Club Onaki. Incredibly expensive. Capital only, yes. So these three are actually all capital only mages, and I think they're all slow to recruit too. I think I skipped this one. Yes, this is the Arch Theurg. High level Astral, Priest level 3, Air Magic, plus randoms. These guys are good, don't get me wrong, but they're expensive and capital only, and the Onaki are also expensive and capital only. High level Death, high level Blood, and can random fire and have decent levels of nature as well. They're very powerful mages. They're also just very expensive and slow to recruit, capital only, so this is going to be a huge cramp in Summer's style right there. In terms of troops, he's got the Raven Guard, who are flying, 2 attack, stealthy. They're good. They're very solid troops. He's got these guys who I believe were originally man defenders. 16 gold for a dude with a kite shield and crossbow, pretty solid. Can also fight very decently in melee. The Winged Hussars, these are barbarian heavy cavalry from late-age Tianqi. Extremely price-efficient cavalry units, decent prot, decent defense skill, lance charge, 2 melee attacks, plus a composite bow. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then we have the Knight of the Chadish, or the Knights of the Chalice. Recruit anywhere, elite, sacred heavy cavalry, high protection, good skills across the board, high hit points and strength for a human unit. 50 gold, but 50 gold is not out of line for heavy cavalry in general, much less sacred heavy cavalry. Drop a bless on these bad boys, and they will steamroll a lot of stuff. His base sight, Astral, Death, and Nature, so good gem income for it. That said, I still think, I think Summer's gonna run into trouble with this, this capital-only recruitment logjam here, because these guys are kind of important to the nation, and he can only get 1 every 2 turns of all 3 of these. They are all slow to recruit. They are all kind of expensive. These guys are the cheapest, the VIP bartenders. And he's just not gonna end up with a lot of them. I think he's gonna be relying on night servers and bouncers a lot to do the jobs that he generally needs to do. In any case, there's a variety of others. Like I said, most of them are not anywhere close to complete. These guys still have a lot more coming. I don't know why he's edited these guys to be satyrs, but cool, great, fantastic, I love it. He's edited everyone to be satyrs, hasn't he? Yes, he has. Everyone is satyrs. Nice. I love it. The Horned Coalition. So, Enkidu and satyrs. Very, very nice. He's also got these panic bot. Let's say they are really good at deadlifts. Oh god, I can't do it. so yeah, the Horned Coalition here. I'm gonna link this mod in the description. You can by all means take a look at it. It's a lot of fun. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. As you can see, some of these have not actually renamed their nation. The Swine, the Lamos. We've also got somebody recycling Kalkheim's flag because why not? I guess. Oh god, he's Marignan. Or is he, Yep, he's Marignan. This is Mechrite. He's using... come on, Mechrite. Use a different flag, you lazy bastard. In any case, thanks for watching this. Dominions Allstars 2 promises to be a lot of fun. I look forward to the glorious and inevitable victory of Trollheim over all of the false pretenders. And we are going to have a blast with it. So, look for that coming soon to a YouTube channel near you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.